The gym buzzed with excitement, kids shouting, sneakers squeaking, camera flashes popping in waves as Michael Jordan signed another poster, posed for another selfie, gave another nod of approval to a shy fan's jump shot. It was supposed to be a smooth charity event, local Chicago kids, a few hundred pairs of limited edition shoes, a quick photo op before heading back to the city. The line was long, stretched around the gym and into the hallway, and staff were already whispering about cutting it early. But Jordan stayed calm, moving down the line with patient smiles and a practiced rhythm. Until her. She stepped forward slowly, small and thin, her hoodie sleeves covering most of her hands, her braids tied back in mismatched bands. Her name tag said Ayanna, but the name barely registered before she spoke. "Mr. Jordan." Her voice didn't shake. It didn't rise. It just cut through the noise with something heavier than sound. He looked down, expecting a request for a signature or a pair of shoes, but her eyes met his with an honesty that made him freeze. "I'm hungry." The pen in his hand stalled midair. For a beat, the entire gym kept going, laughter, music, chatter until it didn't. Slowly, the noise dimmed as those nearby noticed something was off. One of his security guards leaned in. "You okay, Mike?" But Jordan didn't move. "What did you say?" he asked, quieter now, bending just slightly to hear better. "I'm hungry," she repeated. "I haven't eaten since yesterday morning." Jordan's mouth opened, then closed. He looked to the girl's side and saw a woman mid-30s, work uniform under a jacket, eyes full of apology, stepping forward. "I'm sorry, Mr. Jordan, she didn't mean—" "Yes, she did," he interrupted gently, "and she was right to." His voice dropped, intended only for the girl and her mother. "Is that true?" Ayanna nodded once. Her stomach rumbled faintly. Jordan heard it, felt it, like a punch. "You haven't eaten since school lunch yesterday?" "Yes, sir," she said, polite, like it was nothing unusual. "We ran out of food last night, but I didn't want to miss this." She held up a torn notepad with a drawing of him dunking. It was folded into fourths, smudged and soft at the corners. "I made this for you." Jordan took the paper slowly, his hands suddenly uncertain. For all the games he'd played, the championships, the speeches, didn't know what to say now. He looked back up at her. "Thank you." The crowd was watching now. Phones up, staff tense. But Michael didn't care. He turned to his assistant. "Find out where they live. I'll ride with them." "Sir?" "Now." The line was paused. Event staff looked panicked. But Jordan was already walking off the court with Ayanna and her mom beside him. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't pose for another photo. The cameras caught the moment, but the man himself was quiet. All he could hear was that sentence replaying over and over again, "I'm hungry." The SUV moved quietly through the west side streets, tinted windows hiding the world's most recognizable face sitting beside Ayanna in the back seat. Her notepad still rested in her lap, but she hadn't opened it since they left. Simone sat in the front, hands clenched around her purse, offering polite directions when asked but otherwise silent. Michael said nothing, either not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't trust his voice yet. He'd spent decades in control of every stage he walked on, but this wasn't a stage. It was a reality he hadn't expected to meet in such sharp detail. The building was cracked brick and chipped cement, the kind of place where even the mailboxes sagged from exhaustion. "This is us," Simone murmured, embarrassed, already regretting letting him come. Jordan stepped out first. No cameras, no entourage, just him and a quiet sense of resolve. The hallway smelled like old paint and something sour. They walked up 2 flights. At the door, Ayanna hesitated, then whispered, "It's kind of messy." Michael smiled faintly. "So's my jumper when I'm tired." She unlocked it. Inside was colder than it should have been. 2 blankets bunched on a mattress in the corner. A small table. No television. The kitchen was half a counter, a broken toaster, a fridge humming too loud. Simone opened it slowly, empty except for a mustard bottle, a half-full jug of tap water, and 1 slice of white bread. "I was going to get more," she said softly, "but my last check was short. The boys are at my sister's. I didn't think you'd really come." Michael stepped toward the counter and placed his phone down. "Can I borrow a pen?" Ayanna offered him one, unsure. He didn't use it. Instead, he opened his notes app and typed while pacing, eyes taking in every corner. "How long have you been here?" he asked. 4 years, Simone replied. "We moved in after I lost my job at the dental office. This is all we could afford." "What school do you go to, Ayanna?" "Langston Middle." "Do they have meals on weekends?" "Only during the year," she answered. "Not in summer or breaks." Jordan nodded slowly, then looked back at Simone. "I'm not here to judge you. I just want to understand what's failing you." Simone's eyes welled up. "I'm doing my best. I know you are," he said gently. "That's the problem." He sent 3 messages without explaining, then looked down at Ayanna. "Do you have plans tomorrow?" "No," she said, confused. "Why?" "Because tomorrow you're coming with me," he replied. "I want to show you something." He turned to Simone. "You too, if that's all right." She nodded slowly. "Where are we going?" "First," he said, walking toward the door, "we're going to eat. Then, we'll talk about what comes next." As they stepped outside, Ayanna took his hand without thinking. Michael looked down, surprised, then squeezed gently. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. He already knew. The restaurant wasn't extravagant by Michael's standards. No paparazzi, no velvet ropes, no private backroom with imported wine lists. Just a quiet booth near the window of a family-owned soul food spot he used to visit in his rookie years. The kind of place where you knew the cook's name and the jukebox still worked if you gave it a slap. Ayanna sat across from him, small hands fidgeting with the edge of her hoodie, eyes bouncing between the menu and the framed photo of Jordan on the wall from 1993. Simone sat beside her, still unsure whether to relax or brace for disappointment. A waitress approached with water, recognized Michael, smiled wide, but said nothing. He nodded in appreciation. "Order anything," he said quietly, sliding a paper menu toward Ayanna. "Really? Anything you want?" She stared for a moment, almost like she was being tested. "Do they have pancakes?" she asked. Michael grinned. "They do now." The waitress laughed and took the order. Ayanna got pancakes and chicken tenders. Simone chose the meatloaf, but only after Michael insisted twice. When the food came, Ayanna didn't attack it. She ate slowly, deliberately, like it might vanish if she moved too fast. Michael watched her carefully, not to pity, but to understand. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" he asked. Ayanna shrugged. "Used to want to be a nurse like my auntie. Now I just want to be somewhere warm with food and books." He let the silence sit for a moment. "That's not small," he said. "That's real." Simone wiped her mouth gently with the napkin. "We've been on lists for food stamps for months. The city's backed up. When my hours get cut, we don't qualify. When I work too much, we lose other help. It's a trap either way." Michael listened. Noted. Took another mental snapshot. "Do you know about the James Foundation?" he asked. Simone nodded vaguely. "That's LeBron's, right?" "Yeah. He's doing good work in Akron. We're different. We don't have a school, but we have reach. I'm building something in Chicago, and I need people who see what I saw today." Ayanna looked up from her plate. "What did you see?" "I saw someone brave enough to say the truth out loud," he answered. "I saw a system that doesn't just need patching, it needs breaking open." His phone buzzed. A text from his foundation lead. "Ready when you are." Another from CPS board contact. "I'll take your call tonight." A third from his personal attorney. "Budget estimates incoming. Give me 48 hours." He pocketed the phone without responding. "Would you come with me tomorrow to your school?" he asked Ayanna. "We'd talk to your principal. Quietly. Just a visit." "Will they know?" "Only if you want them to." She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." Simone looked across the table at him. "Why us?" Michael leaned back, folded his napkin on the table. "Because you didn't ask for help. You told the truth. And sometimes that's rarer than anything." The knock came at 7:42 a.m. Simone opened the door, still in her bathrobe, hair pulled back, expecting maybe the neighbor or a delivery she didn't remember ordering. But there he was, Michael Jordan, dressed in gray sweats, baseball cap low, and holding 2 full paper grocery bags in his arms. No assistants, no cameras, no entourage, just him. I figured eggs taste better if you don't have to wait for someone else to make them, he said casually, like this was normal. Like the greatest basketball player of all time showing up at your front door with breakfast was just another Tuesday. Ayanna blinked from behind her mom, her slippers half on, eyes wide. Is that pancake mix? She whispered. And real syrup, Michael replied. None of that fake stuff. He stepped inside without ceremony, placing the bags gently on the chipped counter. Where's the skillet? Simone was too stunned to respond, just pointed toward the bottom cabinet while tying her robe tighter. Ayanna hovered by the table, not sure if she was supposed to sit or stand or hide. Jordan rolled up his sleeves and got to work. Eggs cracked, bacon sizzled, pancake batter poured in imperfect circles. It smelled like a memory Ayanna didn't even know she had. When he called them to sit, Simone hesitated, her pride wrestling with gratitude, but eventually took the chair. Ayanna needed no invitation. She was already in place, fork in hand, trying not to drool. You always cook like this? She asked through a mouthful of bacon. Only when I want someone to listen, he replied. He poured himself coffee, black, and finally sat down across from them. So, he said, let's talk. Ayanna stopped chewing. Simone straightened up. Jordan leaned forward, elbows on the table. I need to understand the full picture. What your school does. What it doesn't. What the community sees. What they miss. You two are going to help me design something that works, not just looks good in press releases. Simone narrowed her eyes slightly, unsure. Design what? A pilot, he said. A proof of concept. We'll start at Langston. Meals, yes, but more than that. After-school programs, mentorship, weekend groceries. No red tape. No paperwork that gets lost in desks. Just food. Safety. Time. Ayanna set her fork down. You're serious? Dead serious, he said. And I don't want it to come from me. I want it to come from you. You're the voice. I'm just the megaphone. Simone shook her head in disbelief. Why would you go through all this trouble? Jordan looked at her, steady. Because if someone like Ayanna slips through the cracks, we're all failing. And I've had enough trophies. I want impact. He pulled a folded sheet from his hoodie pocket, a drafted outline, handwritten, bullet points and arrows scribbled in the margins. This is what I worked on last night, he said. And it starts now. If you're with me. The room was quiet for a second. Then Ayanna picked her fork back up, took another bite, and said, Okay, let's do it. The boardroom at the Jordan Impact Foundation wasn't used to early mornings. The chairs were still warm from night shift cleaning crews, coffee was still brewing, and half the staff hadn't even opened their laptops when Michael walked in, dropped a manila folder on the table, and said, This isn't about shoes. Sit down. The room went still. 12 staff members, program directors, legal counsel, comms leads, data analysts all stared at him, unsure if this was a brainstorm session or a fire drill. What happened? Someone finally asked. Michael didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Her name's Ayanna Jones, he said. 12 years old. Lives off 60, threered. Told me yesterday, at an event, in front of a crowd, that she hadn't eaten in 24 hours, that she was used to it. He let the silence do its damage before flipping the folder open. Her school, Langston Middle, 73% of students under the poverty line. Weekend meal coverage, none. Summer coverage, spotty at best. Counseling services, one part-time advisor for 400 kids. Lisa, the program director, adjusted her glasses. We've reviewed Langston before. We offered a backpack food program last year, and it didn't scale. I know, he cut in. I'm not blaming anyone. But this isn't charity. It's a test. We failed her. We failed hundreds of kids like her because we built a system that looks good on a report and folds the second it's real. A comms guy tried to interject. We could draft a public response kit ahead of it before. Michael slammed the folder shut. This isn't PR. This is strategy. We're not reacting. We're building. He turned to Andre, the head of logistics. How fast can we get daily meals set up at Langston? Depends on partners. 2 weeks with outside vendors. Less if we use church kitchens or local restaurants. Then do it. Quietly. I don't want a headline. I want food. He looked at the analyst in the corner. I want data. Which other schools look like Langston? Income, test scores, absence rates, meal access. Give me a list by tonight. She nodded, already typing. And Lisa. He turned back, softer now. I need structure. After school. Weekends. Not just food, but mentorship. Tutors, counselors. Safe places to breathe. We start with Langston. We prove the model. Then we replicate. Lisa hesitated. This scale, Michael, it's going to cost millions, and it'll outpace what the foundation usually allocates. He didn't flinch. Then we find more. Bring me every partner who ever sat in one of our fundraising galas. Athletes, celebrities, tech guys who bought courtside tickets and said they wanted to make a difference. Call every one of them. And if they say no? Andre asked. Michael stared at him. Then I'll pay for it myself. The room sat in stunned silence as he stood. We start today, not tomorrow. Not after the press gets ready. Today, if Ayanna was strong enough to say she was hungry, we better be strong enough to feed her and everyone like her. Then he walked out, and the war room came alive. The library at Langston Middle had never been that full before first period. Folding chairs scraped across tile as teachers squeezed between bookshelves, glancing nervously toward the tall figure standing by the whiteboard. Principal Martinez kept wiping his palms on his tie, offering strained smiles, clearly unsure if this was a dream or a career-ending moment. Simone sat quietly beside Ayanna near the corner, her eyes bouncing between Michael Jordan and the school officials filing in like they were about to receive a reprimand. Two members from Michael's foundation stood behind him, arms crossed, tablets in hand. Nobody spoke until the last door closed. Then Jordan stepped forward and said simply, She told the truth. That's why we're here. He pointed toward Ayanna, who shifted uncomfortably in her chair but didn't look away. She said she was hungry. Not hungry like lunchtime, hungry. Hungry like she hadn't eaten in a day. Hungry like it's normal, and no one knew. He paused, letting the weight settle. You have 400 students in this school. How many Ayannas are you missing? Martinez stepped forward, trying to take back some control. Mr. Jordan, we appreciate your concern, and I want to assure you we have systems in place. We work with city meal plans, backpack programs. That failed, Michael interrupted calmly. They failed her. You're running systems. I'm talking about humans. One of the school counselors cleared her throat. We do what we can, but we're underfunded. We're already stretched. I know, Jordan said, which is why we're not here to blame. We're here to build. He waved his hand to his staff. One of them tapped the projector, and numbers flashed on the screen. Free lunch enrollment, attendance dips after long weekends, absenteeism spikes during holiday breaks. We mapped every time food stops, and every time your kids vanish. You think they're just skipping school? They're surviving. The room went quiet. A vice principal took off her glasses and pinched her eyes. So what are you proposing? Jordan took a deep breath. A pilot program. Starts here. Hot meals. Every day. Not just lunch. Breakfast too. After-school snacks. Weekend pantry bags. No forms. No red tape. No social security numbers or parental documentation. If you're hungry, you eat. Martinez looked stunned. That would take an entire infrastructure. Staffing. Budgeting. Authorization. We've got the funding, one of the foundation leads said. We've already mapped delivery partners. Local restaurants, catering services, community volunteers. We're not asking for permission. We're offering a solution. Ayanna raised her head, just enough to see the screen again. Her drawing, the one she gave Jordan, was in the corner, small but visible. No credit, no spotlight, just a symbol. The superintendent, who had arrived late and stood silently near the back, finally stepped forward. If you can really deliver this, we'll support it. Fully. Michael nodded once. Good. Then we start Monday. He turned toward Ayanna and gave her a slight smile. You did this. Her eyes widened. Me? You were brave enough to speak. Now it's our turn to act. The cafeteria didn't look like the same room. Gone were the gray trays, the pale pizza squares, the cold cartons of milk. The walls were clean, repainted soft orange with new light fixtures that didn't buzz or flicker. And hanging right above the serving station was a poster Ayanna had drawn in her notebook months ago, a cracked basketball morphing into a full plate of food. In the corner, her handwriting untouched, "Feed to Dream." She stopped in the doorway, her tray in her hands, staring at it like she couldn't breathe. No one told her they were going to use it. No one asked. They just knew. Around her, the buzz of excited voices, chairs dragging, kids laughing, some still unsure if this was real. On the far side of the line, under a white apron with sleeves rolled up to his elbows, Michael Jordan scooped mashed potatoes with the focus of a man in the final seconds of a playoff game. "Next," he said, nodding toward a stunned sixth grader who blinked twice before stepping forward. "Want gravy?" The boy nodded so fast his glasses slipped. Jordan poured it like it was gold. Simone stood behind the counter too, hair netted, name tag crooked, smile fighting back tears. She had made peace with long nights and silent sacrifice, but now she was in a kitchen where her work didn't just feed it restored. She excused herself for a second, slipped into the back hallway, leaned against the wall and wept softly into her sleeve. Ayanna spotted her and almost went to follow, but then Jordan waved her forward. "Hey, boss," he said with a wink. "Hope the head of creative likes the menu." She stepped forward slowly, tray shaking a little. Not from fear, but disbelief. "Is this permanent?" she asked. He nodded. "As long as you want it to be." Kids around them had already started eating. Real food, hot food, cornbread and roast chicken, steamed broccoli, sliced fruit. No frozen nuggets, no pale spaghetti drowning in ketchup. Ayanna took her plate to her usual table, but halfway there, a group of students stood up to let her sit with them. Not out of pity. Out of something different. Something new. A boy she barely knew said, "Is that your drawing?" She looked at it again and just nodded. "It's cool." She took a bite. The warmth hit her in the chest before it even reached her stomach. For the first time in a long time, eating didn't come with guilt or worry or the sound of her grandmother quietly crying behind a closed door. In that room, surrounded by noise and forks and kids with full plates, Ayanna didn't feel like a statistic. She felt seen. And Michael, now loading another tray with sides, looked up just in time to catch her smiling. Not a forced one. Not polite. A full one. The kind that told him they'd done more than feed her. They'd changed everything. The headline wasn't supposed to run. It was a local reporter, someone who'd overheard a cafeteria staff member mention MJ serving mashed potatoes. And by the time Jordan's foundation could ask for discretion, the photos were already circulating. Michael in a hairnet. Michael in an apron. Michael crouched next to a girl at a cafeteria table, pointing at a crayon drawing on the wall. Michael Jordan rescues hungry girl ran in bold across the top of the Chicago Tribune, then landed on the front page of national papers within hours. His phone lit up with missed calls, PR advisors, brand partners, old teammates, ESPN. One message from his agent just read, "You said you didn't want press. Now you're a headline." At the foundation office, staff scrambled to put out a statement. Draft talking points, prepare for the storm. But Michael didn't read the drafts. He didn't sit in the meetings. He sat in a corner with the photo of Ayanna on his tablet and played the moment back in his head, her saying she was hungry, her looking at that drawing in the cafeteria, her sitting down to eat like it was sacred. And he knew what he had to do. That evening, he walked onto the set of a national news broadcast. No suit, just a plain black sweater. The host looked surprised when he shook her hand and asked, "No entourage?" "This ain't a shoe drop," he replied. The segment was supposed to be 10 minutes. It stretched to 22. He talked about Ayanna, about the hole in the system, about food as a right, not a luxury, about silence. "This isn't about one girl," he said, voice calm but edged with steel. "It's about every kid who sat in class hungry and thought that was just life. It's about every school that passed out a flyer instead of a plate. Every adult who said, 'Not my problem.'" The anchor, visibly moved, asked what comes next. Michael didn't blink. "I'm challenging every athlete with a foundation. Every billionaire who's ever said the words, 'give back,' adopt a zip code, One zip code. Feed it. Support it. Start with food. Add tutoring. Add warmth. But start. The next morning, his inbox exploded. Some replies were performative, others real. A WNBA team in Atlanta committed to starting a weekend pantry program. A retired NFL player called to ask for the blueprint. A tech executive wired a $1 million donation. But most stayed quiet. Most didn't respond. Michael didn't follow up. He didn't shame them. He just kept building. A week later, Ayanna found a letter in her backpack, handwritten. No envelope, just one sentence. You lit the match. Now watch what burns. There was no signature, but she knew who it was from. She folded it, tucked it into her notebook, and smiled. Let the world talk. They had work to do. The sky was overcast that morning, the kind of gray that made the city feel smaller. Ayanna didn't mention her birthday to anyone. She got dressed like it was any other school day, pulling on her hoodie, lacing her sneakers, slipping the folded letter from Michael into the back pocket of her notebook like she always did now. Simone kissed the top of her head, pretending not to feel the ache in her chest. There was no gift on the table, no candle, no mention, just cereal and silence. When the school bus came, Ayanna walked down the steps alone. She didn't know that the bus had already been rerouted. She didn't know that every seat behind her was occupied by someone pretending today was normal too. She didn't know what waited at the corner of 82nd and Harlan. It looked like a gym. It used to be one old water-stained, condemned and forgotten by city grants. But today it gleamed. Fresh white paint, a new glass door, a banner strung from the fence that read in block gold letters, the Ayanna Jones Center for Youth Nutrition Sports. The bus pulled up and stopped. This isn't school, Ayanna whispered. The driver smiled. Maybe today's something else. She stepped off slowly, eyes wide, the sound of the crowd behind the doors swelling with every step she took. Inside, 100 voices screamed, "Surprise!" at once. Her classmates, her teachers, Simone crying, her little brother clapping too hard. Jordan in the center of the room, arms wide like he just hit a game winner. Confetti rained down, balloons bounced across the court. She didn't move at first. She just stared at the mural painted on the gym's main wall. It was her, a portrait. Her face tilted up, eyes focused, mouth just barely open. In her hand, not a ball or a trophy but a tray of food. Above it, in bold letters, "Now I feed others." Her mouth opened but nothing came out. Jordan stepped beside her quietly, placed a hand on her shoulder. "You thought we forgot?" She turned toward him, and the tears came before she could stop them. Not loud, not dramatic, just the kind that hit and kept falling. He reached out, thumb gentle beneath her eye, and wiped one away. "You changed lives," he said softly. "You earned this." They gave her a tour. New kitchen, classroom space for tutoring, a small studio with cameras and mics where kids could record podcasts or videos. A court designed by local artists, one free hoop for every block in her zip code. The locker room had her name on the door. "You're the first captain," someone said. She didn't answer. Her voice was gone, buried under waves of disbelief. After the cake, her favorite, red velvet with cream cheese frosting, Jordan pulled her aside. "I know it's a lot," he said. She nodded, wiping her nose. "But you need to know something. None of this is a favor. It's a response. You showed up. You spoke up." This is the echo. And when she finally found her voice again, all she said was, "Thank you for hearing me." He smiled. Always. The lights inside the convention hall were almost too bright. Stage polished for cameras, and flanked by banners that read things like "Innovation in Education" and "Feeding the Future." Michael sat quietly in the front row, legs crossed, listening to panels filled with numbers, projections, grant language spoken in careful tones. He had spoken at events like this before, but never like this. This time wasn't about legacy or branding. It was about Ayanna. When they called his name, the applause started before he even reached the podium. Some stood. Some whispered to their neighbors like they still couldn't believe he was actually here. He walked slowly, not milking the moment, just letting the room settle. He didn't have a speech in hand. No teleprompter. Just a small photo tucked inside his jacket pocket. "Good morning," he said into the mic, voice calm. "I've been called the greatest of all time, in a game where points decide everything. But I'm here today to tell you that the most important win of my life didn't happen on a court." A screen behind him flickered on. A photo appeared Ayana in the cafeteria, now 13, her hair tied back, wearing a volunteer badge, smiling as she passed a tray of food to a younger student. The room went still. "That," he said, pointing back, "is the championship I'm most proud of." A few people gasped softly. Some didn't know the full story. Others had heard bits and headlines. But the weight of it landed different when it came from him. 6 months ago, she said something simple. She said, "I'm hungry." And the world around her, the systems we all built, had nothing to say back. So she said it louder. And when someone tells you the truth, your only job is to listen. His voice cracked slightly on that last word. He paused, looked down, took a breath. She didn't ask for shoes or fame. She didn't try to go viral. She told the truth in a moment where silence would have been easier. And because of that, kids are eating, families are breathing, teachers are staying. The program we started at her school is now in 6 more. Over 3,000 students. Every one of them with a name, with a story, with a voice. He pulled the photo from his jacket and held it up not for the cameras, but for himself. "I've got trophies, medals, records, but none of them make me feel like this photo does." He blinked fast, looked up. "I didn't save her. She saved us. She reminded me what greatness actually is." The crowd stood as one. A full standing ovation. People clapped with open hands and full hearts. But Michael didn't smile. Not yet. He just looked at the screen again, at Ayana's face, and whispered into the mic so soft it almost didn't carry, "She changed my life." All because she told the truth. And for the first time that day, the GOAT had tears in his eyes.